Good Carson City morning to everyone. We're going to call a meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order. Today is Thursday, September 15th, 2016. It is 8:30 a.m. We're in the Community Center at the Sierra Room at 851 East William Street. Could we please have a roll call? Kathy, for the record, please.
Good morning. Supervisor Abel? Here. Supervisor Bonkowski? Here. Supervisor Bagwell? Here. Supervisor Shirk? Here. And Mayor Kroll? Here. Quorum is present.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Could we call on our good friend Nick Emery to get us started today? Nick, good morning.
For this day and the gift that it is. God, may we use every conversation and every action in ways, God, that encourage and help others, that build them up. Give us wisdom and strength to do what we must. God, give us joy in all of the process throughout we experience this day. We pray in your name. Amen.
Darren, could you come up? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're now going to turn to item number 5 on the agenda. This is the time for public comment. We take comment at the beginning and the end of the agenda, and also where appropriate, and it's generally always appropriate during each agenda item. We can talk about any topic that's relevant to our body here today. Anybody on public comment stuff? Anybody? Lots of people. Okay. All right. I don't see any, but as I said, throughout the meeting, we'll have opportunities. Could we now move to item number 6, the possible approval of the minutes of August 18th? Everybody had a chance to look at those? We have motions in order.
I move to approve the minutes of August 18th, 2016 as presented.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. On the agenda, City Manager.
No change.
No changes. Board members? Unless there's an objection, then we will take the agenda as published. Now let's retire down to the floor and take up special presentations of special part of the day. So if we could do that. Who's first? Anna Gregg. Good morning, Anna. How are you? How's everything going over at Health and Human Services?
It's going good.
Going all healthy?
All healthy.
All right. That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear. Anna, on behalf of a grateful community and the Board of Supervisors, please accept this longevity award for 5 years of continuous and dedicated service to our great community and keeping us healthy and wise. Thank you. All right. Come on up here, too. All right. Michael Tiki. Michael. Oh, the orange shirts, man. I love it, huh? Michael, how are you this morning? Doing very well, and thanks for you guys what Public Works does for us. You're literally all over this town, so it's pretty nice. On behalf of a grateful community, please accept our congratulations and thanks for 10 years of continuous service to your community and making sure that all our infrastructure things work. Thank you, Michael. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Patterson. How are you this morning? Good. You know this lady?
I think so.
I don't know how you work with him, but that's okay.
He keeps things interesting.
Well, okay. That's a good answer. And on that note, please accept the thanks and from your community, and thanks from your Board of Supervisors, and thanks from the sheriff here for appreciation for 10 years of continuous and dedicated service to our community. Thanks very much, Liz. Okay. All right. Thanks for letting us kid a little bit. All right.
Maribel.
Maribel. Good morning, Maribel. How are you this morning? How's the state of the law today?
Good.
Is all right? All right.
We're all here.
You're all here? Okay, well, who's taking care of the business end? And who do you got back there? That's I haven't seen that face for a while. Mr. Nielsen, how you doing? Okay. And Maribel, on behalf of a grateful community and the Board of Supervisors and all of us, please accept this longevity award in recognition for 20 years of continuous and dedicated service to Carson City, your wonderful community that you live in. Thanks for taking care of us all these years. Thanks. All right, come on up there. James White. The firemen come up, paramedics and everybody. How are you doing this morning?
Good.
Not out on a call just yet?
Just got back from one.
Yeah. Well, I listened to the, I don't know how you guys do it. Boy, you're out there, as I mentioned to somebody, when you see a fire truck or, one of the paramedic ambulances going down the road, you kind of, a lot of things go through your mind. But, one of them is that every time you see one of those with the lights on, something's happening in this community. Something, that you really might never know what's happening when you get there. So on behalf of a grateful community, James, let me give you this longevity award for 20 years of continuous and dedicated service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up here. And now could we have the man in the suit come up, Mr. Ken Sandage. Boy, do you look good this morning. Well, thank you. Holy smokes, boy, look at that. Different colored collar and all that. Man, I tell you, you are all right, Ken. I got to say, Ken, I want to say personal thanks. I know, when I was first mayor, we ran into a little thing that was going on with somebody out in the community here, and you and the sheriff were right on top of that thing. So, Ken, we kid each other, but on behalf of the community, a grateful community, thanks for 25 years of service to your community. It's just wonderful to have you on board. Pleasure. Thanks, Ken. Okay, come on up. All right, we'll get a picture up here.
So if we have any family members or coworkers that want to jump
We can
into
get
the
a picture.
picture, feel free to go on in.
How we doing?
Thanks.
like, really?
He's like, she's gonna be 15. I'm like, what?
Karaoke. Why can I not?
And speaking of special presentations, we'll wait a minute here. Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on, Michael, I'll get you. Speaking of special presentations, I'd like to have Mr. Robbins, Michael Robbins is asked to make a little presentation to the board this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Michael Robbins. I own Hannafin's Antiques on the Main Street. I've been there about 17 years. And I've been experiencing all the construction and the new projects that have been going on. And I have a chance to go out my front door and see how the construction's progressing. And a few weeks ago, I was watching the crews from Q&D Construction removing pipes and sewer lines, and I just looked down one morning and I saw some of our water lines that were feeding our business, and it was kind of startling to me because they were so rusted and old. And I guess there's been a lot of controversy over whether we needed to replace sewer and water lines and roads and all that. So I took some of the rubbish that was coming out of the street, and I found these 4 or 5 inch water lines in the streets that were feeding our business. They're rusty on the inside, rusty on the outside. And I thought I'd like to show them to some of the supervisors to show them that the work they were doing was relevant. And if you look at these lines, they're rusty through and through, and some of them have holes in them, which probably were creating potential sinkholes. So anyway, on my own, I made these models on wood with a little bit of rebar holding the piece up, and I made them for the 3 supervisors here who have helped to make this work possible. And on the award it says, "This award is being presented to the public servants who have been most active in helping to improve Carson City's infrastructure. These improvements include our sidewalks, water lines, sewer lines, roads, and gas lines. This sample of Carson City's 5-inch water line was removed from Carson Street in July 2016. It was an active water line until July 2016. This line was removed by Q&D Construction in Reno. And I'm going to supply certificates of authenticity in case the board members may want to sell these on eBay a little later. So I have 3 awards for the 3 supervisors who voted for these improvements. And not to leave out Lori and Jim, I've brought you some candy. So.
The better deal.
So. One for the city manager. Oh, thanks for your help.
What are you limping for?
What?
You're limping a little bit.
Oh, I sprained my ankle.
I know.
No. Playing tennis. Sure. Is it on? I'd just like to say, I think a lot of the business owners and citizens in the community appreciate a lot of this work that we're seeing come to fruition after 17 years of talking about it. And I also have an award for John McKenna I'm going to bring to him. And I appreciate your work. I appreciate your vision and your ability to stick to this job when it was really hard. So I think there's a lot of us out here who really appreciate your work.
Well, on behalf of all of us, I think we want to thank you as a business owner down on Carson Street for putting up with the interruption in work. I'm told by the city manager that it will be done tomorrow. Did I misunderstand that?
A little bit.
All right. No, on a serious note, we want to thank you and all the businesses there for putting up with it, and we also want to thank you for making Carson City a better place to live and work. And so thank you, Michael, on behalf of all of us up here. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Michael. Oh, thank you very much. And if there's any public comment, I'm leaving. You can make it without me.
Michael, I just want to say thank you for running an outstanding business in our community.
All right. Any other public comment or presentations? Anybody? All right. We're ready to turn then to item number 9. This is the Carson City Airport Authority. I'm going to step out of this. Although I'm retired, my former law partner is my personal friend as well. Steve Takis is counsel to the Airport Authority, so I don't feel comfortable doing it. He's here right now. So I'm going to pass the gavel over to Mayor Pro Tem Karen.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 9A, to introduce on first reading an ordinance amending the Carson City Municipal Code Title 19, Airport Rules and Regulations, Sections 19.02.020, 3.340, and 19.02.020.200 to allow for use of over-the-counter building permits and to correct the reference to landing pattern diagrams. So, Steve, are you going to take us through this?
Yes, Steve Takis, Airport Council. There are two changes that the Airport Authority would like to make to Title 19. One deals with over-the-counter permits. The overall purpose is to see that we can use the same process that the city uses for other construction in the city for construction on the airport. The second change, and I'll explain more on both of these. The second change is to modify the reference in Title 19 to the landing traffic pattern. The current reference says that it's included in Title 19, and we discovered that the official version of Title 19 does not include it. And upon further discussion, we decided trying to make a diagram like that part of the typewritten code is probably trying to put a square peg into a round hole. It makes more sense for us to simply modify the Title 19 to refer to our webpage where we can post the graphical image. As for the first one, the building permits, you know, the construction that we typically have on the airport is a result of either lease requirements or somebody revamping some area of their tarmac or changing tie downs, things like that. It's typically major construction. And so the way Title 19 reads right now is it requires all of that to be approved by the Airport Authority before someone can go to the city and get the building permits. We still want them to get building permits. We still want it to go through the city process. And so there's one sentence in Title 19 in this section whose last digits are .340 that says without Airport Authority approval, no Carson City permits will be issued. Well, we started running into issues where people were like replacing water heaters or building shelves, doing things which require a building permit, but they're the kinds of things that the city currently handles with an over-the-counter process. If you read this, technically, they can't do that because the city can't give them the over-the-counter permit because it needs prior approval by the airport authority. The airport authority, of course, meets once a month, and so that would put a big delay. So if somebody's water heater goes out, now they're looking at least 30 days, probably longer, to replace their water heater, which is not something that we ever intended, and it's really not something we wanted. So the idea was to simply put in a very small fix to the code, which would say that except permits issued under the Carson City over-the-counter permit criteria shall not require additional approval by the airport authority. It could be grammatically improved. It probably should say, except that permits to be issued under the Carson City over-the-counter permit criteria shall not require additional approval by the airport authority. That's not the language that the airport authority approved. I don't think it would be a big deal if you made that grammatical improvement. But that was our fix to it. The entire paragraph is really designed for the heavier construction, so it's kind of hard to figure out where precisely to put that exception. We put it in where we thought it fit best. Others have suggested to us that maybe it should be at the beginning of the section, but after looking at that closely, it doesn't really fit there. Where it really fits is the one sentence that is problematic for us, which says that without airport authority approval, no Carson City permits will be issued. And so that's why we put it there. That's the language that was approved by the airport authority, and that's what we're asking you to approve. As I say, if you wanted to improve it better, you could add in to be issued under the Carson City over-the-counter permit criteria as opposed to just issued. And I'm sure that would be okay with the airport authority. Grammatical changes like that are not substantive. And so that's what we're doing. Sean Keating from the building department's here. Tim Rowe, our airport manager, is here if there are additional questions on the background or any prior issues. I do want to point out, though, we've worked very closely with the building department. They've done a very good job of making public the types of construction that fit the over-the-counter permit process. They post it on the webpage, very clear communication, and frequently we're seeing that there are small construction jobs on the airport that fit right into that criteria. And the last thing we really want to do is make it more difficult for people to do things like replace water heaters or build shelves or do minor construction. So that is our request to you. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Board? Okay. Lori?
Good morning. I just want to clarify, if they get an over-the-counter permit, will they still need to submit 2 sets of plans to the airport manager?
The short answer to that is yes. Okay. However, if what they're really doing is replacing a water heater, that 2 sets of plans will probably be a 1-sentence letter saying, I had to replace my water heater. I don't know that you need plans to replace a water heater. I think that's one of the reasons why they have the over-the-counter permit process.
Okay.
But yes, the short answer to your question is yes.
So all the rest of the paragraph applies?
Correct. And if there's a lease requirement for them to do some construction, they're still obligated to do that. The kinds of construction we're talking about generally wouldn't be construction required by a lease. The leases all pretty much say that within certain time periods, certain improvements to the property must be constructed. In the simplest example, we lease out bare ground, and we require within 12 months or 6 months, depending on what the project is, that construction be started and within a certain date construction be completed, because we're leasing the land to build a hangar. The hangar then becomes a useful asset on the airport. It also generates tax revenues for the airport. Yeah.
And so, Steve, my only question is the first change, except that permits issued under the Carson City over-the-counter permit criteria shall not require additional approval. For the sake of consistency, and I think to address Lori's concern about placement in the paragraph, shouldn't that say prior so that it matches the first sentence?
That is what was intended, and that probably would be a very good improvement.
Okay. Thank you.
Jim?
And if we could have the building department kind of briefly describe what over-the-counter is and what that entails?
For the record, Sean Keating, Chief Building Official. And before I start answering your question, I want to say thank you to Steve and Tim Roll behind. This is probably over a year's worth of collaborative effort trying to find those things that really didn't match what we needed in the city. And it's been really great working with the Airport Authority, identifying those things for their owners, tenants, and operators at the airport. But to answer your question, the over-the-counter permits are basically permits that are issued to the owner of that airplane hangar. Over-the-counter permits are minor electrical, as we discussed already, water heaters, mechanical systems that fail, gas lines, gas pipes, different types of minor improvements that would be to the interior of the hangars. And you can see why, when I describe them, why the over-the-counter permit is really something we need to allow them to move forward with. So,
Thank you.
Lori?
Just in general, Sean, one other question. Is over-the-counter permits defined somewhere in a different code, or is it just procedurally you have the authority for over-the-counter?
over-the-counter is not defined in any of the municipal codes. However, we define that on the website, and we define that on our handouts. And what I really wanted to do is keep that at that level, because sometimes an interior wall remodel is an over-the-counter permit. So whatever we define at the counter as over-the-counter, if it changes in 3 years, we don't have to go back and rework the language of that.
So all of the attorneys agree this is sufficient language? We don't have to define over-the-counter or reference it to any other document?
That's correct, and it's actually better because that way it gives you some flexibility.
Okay.
Any further board comment? Any public comment on this issue? Seeing none, I will bring this back to the board for a motion.
Bill number.
Bill number 113.
I move to introduce on first reading Bill number 2016-113, an ordinance amending Carson City Municipal Code, Title 19, Airport Rules and Regulations, Sections 19.02.020.340 and Section 19.02.020.200 to allow for use of over-the-counter building permits and to correct the reference to landing pattern diagrams with the change to Section 19.02.020.340 to read, except that permits to be issued under the Carson City over-the-counter permit criteria shall not require prior approval by the Airport Authority, and the change to 19.02.020.200 to be as proposed.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I will now turn the gavel back to the mayor.
Okay, we'll take up item number 10. This is, under the assessor, this is a possible approval of the removal of real property taxes and penalties for the 2016-2017 fiscal year for parcel number 001-173-02. That's at 201 Fleischman Way, pursuant to NRS 361.141A. The amount of the removal would be $1,209.08. Kimberly, you want to just give us a thumbnail of why we're doing this? And I think we do it routinely, but go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Kimberly Adams with the Carson City Assessor's Office. This was a unique situation with the property owners. They had entered into a contract to sell the property, and it was indicated on the contract that they would be closing just after the fiscal year would begin. So we felt that the property shouldn't continue to, or actually begin to receive an exemption when they weren't going to be the owners for the majority of the year. Unfortunately, escrow fell through and they ended up not selling the property. So we are now bringing this item to you to have the property taxes removed because the current owner does actually qualify for that property tax exemption.
So the taxes haven't been paid, it's just a removal of the tax liability?
That is correct.
Right. Okay. All right. Questions of Kimberly? Anybody? Public comment? Motion's in order.
I'll make it. I move to.
I didn't hear who first.
Oh.
Go.
Okay. I move to approve the removal of the real property taxes and penalties for the 2016-17 fiscal year for parcel number 001-173-02 to 201 Fleischman Way per NRS 361.1401A in the amount of $1,209.08.
Motion second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take our thanks back to the assessor's office for all you guys do over there.
You're very
I know
welcome.
you answer a lot of questions, and one of them was yesterday, and so please convey our
We're
thanks.
always there to answer questions.
And
We
you're always
welcome
there
the
with a
public to come
smile,
in.
too. That's what.
Yeah, we have fun over there.
You ought to be
Taxes are
teaching all the
fun.
rest of us how to smile. That's good. Thanks. All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Another smiling face this morning. Can we have Nancy, we'll move to item number 11. This is a report on the condition of each fund. Each of us has the report that Nancy Paulson has given to us. Any questions of Nancy? Public comment? I don't see any questions in order.
I move to accept the report on the condition of each fund in the Treasury and the statements of receipts and expenditures through September 2, 2016, per NRS 251.30030. There's another one, and NRS 354.290.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay.
It's your favorite agenda item.
My favorite, boy, I'll tell you, all right, item 12. This is potential purchase of roofing material from Garland-/DBS, Inc. through a joinder bid number 09-5408. This is a joinder matter. Laura, why don't you take us through what this is all about? And I know you've got help there, so go ahead.
Good morning, Laura Tadman, Purchasing and Contracts. This is to approve the purchase of roofing material from Garland DBS through a joinder contract with U.S. Communities. It's a total amount of $192,972.03. It will be funded from the Quality of Life Fund. The roofing material will be used to coat the Upper Aquatic Roof Center. A licensed contractor under separate contract will install the material, and the total project cost is $207,250.43.
Who wants to tell us what's going on? Why we're doing it?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Supervisors. Stephanie Hicks with
Morning,
Carson
Stephanie.
City Public Works. We're coming to you this morning regarding a project that was actually allocated in the 2017 CIP. There was $535,000 allocated for repair of the upper and lower roofs for the aquatic center. The lower roof will require a complete tear-off, and it's not part of this particular item before you, but it will be completed in the spring. But the upper section of the roof can be recoated using Garland's White Knight product, and that product has been used on the community center. It's a product that facility staff is very happy with, and what it essentially does is provide us a cost-efficient way to preserve the life of the roofing. And they warranty for 15 years after the product application at no cost if it needs further application. And the cost per square foot for the product is approximately $5.50, and the cost per square foot for application is approximately $1.95. So it really is a cost-efficient, good product. We have looked out at all of the facility roofs in the city and how this product can be a great resource for us. So we appreciate your support.
Jennifer, anything? You okay? All right. We have a couple of lights here. Supervisor Bunkowski, then Supervisor Abad.
With this product after application, does it still require annual roof penetration maintenance, or is the product itself still well enough that we don't require that?
I have Ron, Reed, and Tim from Garland here, and I will let them answer that specific question for you.
I'm Tim Samaniego with Garland DBS. To answer your question, no, all the warranties for the product are no dollar limit warranties, which means once the material is applied, the city doesn't put out a dime. If anything goes wrong, any leaks, any material is defective, we essentially own the roof for the length of the warranty.
That's great. Do you then come back on a regular basis for maintenance and sealing, again, of roof penetrations?
Yeah, we'll inspect. Our warranties require us to inspect it yearly, and if any maintenance is required, we bring in a contractor to perform that at Garland's expense.
And I guess my question would be, the balance then in the capital projects account for quality of life fund would be around $86,000. City manager, are you comfortable with that?
We are. What is the cost of this versus replacing the roof? How does that vary?
When I was working with Bob Keith, we had got some numbers from contractors, and they were coming around the $500, $575 to replace it.
$575,000, just
Yes.
to be clear.
Other questions of any of the panel here? Public comment? Jennifer, before you leave, how are we doing on the pool issues out there? We had a number of our swimmers to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Supervisors. Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. We're doing really well. I think with questions and concerns comes great opportunity, and we've created some great partnerships just in our organization. So we have the Department of Alternative Sentencing and also Juvenile Services providing us with some additional labor and support to augment our current lifeguard staff and janitorial crew. So that's wonderful. I just wanted to point out too that we have $309,000 over last fiscal year and this fiscal year that's being invested into the aquatic facility for a variety of projects in addition to the roof, all from the Q18 fund. We have pool covers that we've purchased to hopefully reduce our utility costs. If our utility costs and power costs can go down, we can reallocate that money to other things that are needed at the pool. Those were purchased just this last month. We also have our outdoor slide is going to be refurbished. We have some big maintenance that needs to be done to that to be able to continue to operate. We also have, we're working with IT on security cameras and increasing our footage. We have a lot of blind spots and our security system is kind of outdated, so we're going to be updating that. We also just did on the outdoor pool all the tiles and the coping. We did submit a funding request to a private foundation for some other things at the pool, and we'll see where that goes, and I'll be sure to update you on that as well.
I'm glad you came prepared for that question. Okay, all right. Other questions of the panel here? Public, anybody? All right. Motion's in order, whoever wants to do it.
I'll make it.
Try it.
I move to approve the purchase of roofing material from Garland DBS through a joinder sealed bid number 09-5408 for a not-to-exceed amount of $152,972.03 to be funded from the Quality of Life Fund Capital Projects account.
Motion in a couple seconds on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you very much.
Also, I would just like to thank all three of you. We have three very, relatively recent additions to our staff here in Carson City, and you're all doing an excellent job. Super happy, glad to have you here.
All right. You need a minute to set up?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. We'll be in recess for about 10, 15 minutes. going to bring the meeting of the Board of Supervisors back to order. We're on item number 13, excuse me, the Schultz Ranch subdivision phase 1, Arc Dome Drive matter. Stephanie, you want to do this?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. For the record, Stephanie Hicks with Carson City Public Works. The item before you is to accept the dedication of right-of-way from Shoals Ranch subdivision phase 1, as well as 2 common area parcels. The subdivision is located between Center Drive and Bigelow Drive in South Carson City. And we did provide a timeline of the development. It has been through several approvals, starting in 2005 with the tentative map. The final maps have also come through as recently as July of this year for Phase 2. But the section that we're looking at today is the Phase 1, which I've outlined in the blue dashed line, which approved 100 residential units and included the dedications of right-of-way for portions of Arc Dome Drive, Sawtooth Ridge Drive, Montgomery Pass Court, Cone Peak Drive, Martis Peak Drive, Lahontan Drive, Monument Peak Drive, Wheeler Peak Drive, and Racetrack Road, as well as the dedication of common areas A and B, which are highlighted in red on the exhibit above.
Danny Rotter, Public Works, for the record. You can go back one. One of the things I just wanted to summarize before we had any questions is this is, you might ask, well, why now? What about Phase 2? We just signed Phase 2 and we accepted those right-of-ways in Phase 2. Basically, with Phase 1, NRS and municipal code requires that the title to those dedications pass at the time of the final map. The technicality of the final map with Phase 1 didn't accept nor deny the right-of-ways. They kind of left it open-ended. So I missed that. So you can blame me for having this here today. So it's really a technicality in wrapping this up. We still have the development agreement. We still have a $6.2 million performance bond. And so we're covered in all those aspects. So I just wanted to point that out, and it's on me.
That's my question too. That was all our questions, I guess. Yeah. All right. All right. Any additional questions of Ms. Hicks or Mr. Rotter? Public comment, anybody want to weigh in? I don't see any.
Can I just make a comment? I think it's something that's important maybe for the public to understand, that just because you approve a development or a map way back in 2005, you can see that when did the first house actually get built. It's amazing to me that it really was, 10 and a half years later that the first house in that development is actually being built. So lots of times it really is a long process. So it's just interesting to see the timeline on that. So thank you.
Okay, anything else? Anybody want to make a motion?
Did you get to take public comment?
I did.
He did.
Okay.
But thanks for reminding me.
I move to accept the dedication of right-of-way from Shoals Ranch subdivision phase 1 to include portions of Arc Dome Drive, Sawtooth Ridge Drive, Montgomery Pass Court, Cone Peak Drive, Martis Peak Drive, Lahontan Drive, Monument Peak Drive, Wheeler Peak Drive, and of Racetrack Road and common area A and B, also known as Assessor's Parcel Number 010-702-09 and 010-701-01, all within the Shoals Ranch subdivision.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried, unanimous. Thank you. All right. Take up item 13B, resolution potentially adopting and approving a joint funding agreement for a cooperative water resource monitoring program, USGS. Who's doing this? Mr. Schultz, good morning again, and thank you for taking us through the Pledge of Allegiance this morning.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. Good morning, Darren Schultz, Mayor, Board of Supervisors. If this looks familiar, it should. You see it every year. We have tried to make it more than 1 year at a time, and but so far we're sticking with the 1 year. This basically is a program. It's a joint use cooperative agreement between us, USGS, just in monitoring our stream, the amount of water that's coming down the river and the streams. It's a good deal for us. They're picking up a big share of it, so I'm open to any questions.
Questions of Mr. Schultz? Questions in order.
So can you just tell me a little bit about what the Alpine Decree is this keeps us, that was your question too? Oh. Oh, no, I said briefly. Was there something that was going on, and so they came in and did a compliance check and said these are the issues that the city must address?
Yeah, what it is, what this is to monitor the amount of water that is in the river and in the streams around here. And the reason we do that is to keep track of our usage, how much not only is coming through, but what's the usage that's being pulled off of that. That's good in terms of us just trying to plan for what's going on in the city. But the Alpine Decree, that is something that was developed in the late, I think it was finalized in the late 50s. And it is when a big conglomerate effort federally in terms of water usage in this area. And so certain amounts of water are allowed to come to us, certain amounts to ranchers, to farmers, to other counties. That's all written up in the Alpine Decree as to how that's all divided up. So this is part of our part in satisfying the Alpine Decree to make sure that the water that we're using is the appropriate amount of water and it's our share of water. So that's not the primary, I mean, that's one of the reasons we have to monitor things, but is to satisfy the Alpine Decree.
Okay. Any other questions? Public comment? Anybody want to weigh in on the Alpine? Good. All right. Motion's in order.
I move to adopt Resolution 2016 R240, adopting and approving a joint funding agreement for a cooperative water resource monitoring program with USGS.
Second.
Motion and a bunch of seconds on the motion. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. All right, let's take up the item 14. This is community development. This is with respect to the granting of or not granting of an extension of a building permit 12-52 associated with fire permits 12-265 and 14-556 for construction of the Ormsby House located at 600 South Carson Street. Okay. And to consider any terms or conditions regarding any extension as may be appropriate in circumstances. Who's taking this on? Sean, you want to?
Good morning. For the record,
again.
Sean
All right.
Keating, Chief Building Official. Good morning to all of you. What I'm going to do is give you a brief history, very brief history about the current permits we're asking or we're here to discuss about. Then what I'd like to do is open it up for the applicant, owner, operator to actually address a lot of probably the concerns with these three permits. If I could start off, the permits that we're currently talking about were issued March 30th of 2012. The first 18-month administrative extension was granted October 10th of 2013, and then I approved the second 18-month administrative extension back in April 8th, 2015, which is really due to expire on October 8th of this year, of next month. So that's really the history of this permit cycle. I'd like to say there are other permits that are associated with this entire project. I think it'd be redundant to go backwards. I'd really like to move forward where we're going with this. With that being said, I'd like to open it up to the applicants, owners, and operators to actually discuss this whole issue.
Good morning, Kim Fegan. Good morning. How are you? For the record.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the board.
So you're accompanied by Mr. Metcalf there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Good morning to both of you. All right.
My name is Kim Fegan, and I'm here today representing Donald Lear and Alan Fegan, the principals of the Ormsby House located at 600 South Carson Street. I'm also here today with Tom Metcalf of Metcalf Builders, the contractor on record for the Ormsby House, to ask you to grant the extension of 18 months for the building permit number 12-52 and the associated fire permits 12-265 and 14-556 for the construction of the Ormsby House. The conditions of why we are asking for the extension have recently changed. Just to summarize a bit of the background on this project, Alan Fegan and his business partner Donald Lear purchased the Ormsby House property in 1999 with the idea of complete renovation inside and out. Their dream was to contribute to the revitalizing of downtown Carson City and restore the Casino Hotel to the former iconic downtown landmark that it once was. The Ormsby House has had a lengthy history with difficulties such as asbestos removal, complete infrastructure removal and rebuild, concrete fortification encompassing over 200,000 square feet of building, and much more, all to the tune of about $30+ million. Unfortunately, the project has outlived its masters. Don is now 87 and Al is turning 80. They no longer are able to realistically keep that initial dream. Extending the permit will enable the property, or will enable them to properly market the property to the national and international market and find the appropriate buyer. We believe this would also be the best plan to recoup the maximum amount of investment possible. In return for the extension, the principals would prioritize the completion of the outside of the property and remove the construction fence within 3 months. This would have a serious impact on the visual perception of the property for the community and enhance the ability to sell the property to a potential buyer. We're certainly open to any suggestions from the board, and we would like to thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Kim. Question, go ahead.
Hi, Kim.
Good morning.
And thank you for your tour the other day. Appreciate it. The completion of the outside, what does that mean? Does that mean paving? Does that mean removal of fence, removal of weeds? What are you talking with regards to that?
All of that, yes. We would completely pave the outside. Obviously, we can't remove the fence until that part of it's done, but we were just talking with Sean about that, and Tom can give you more detail.
Tom Metcalf, Metcalf Builders for the record. Supervisor Abowd, I'm here with the civil plans. They are approved. We have boundaries of construction, and I've actually have the pricing. I would just need to refresh it. So actually getting the subs on board would be a pretty quick operation. What the owners are proposing, and we talked to Mr. Keating, is that we would do grading, sub-base, base under paving, curb and gutter, and that what we would also do is put all the landscape sleeves in ready for future landscaping. But we would go to the limits of construction based on the approved drawings now.
Would that include all the civil external improvements that are on the plans?
Yes, everything that's on the plans, whether it's off-site or on-site, would be completed.
Okay. Sure, go on, I'm sorry.
In what time frame would that be accomplished?
They've agreed to do it within 3 months.
All right, Brad, go.
Kim, can you tell us a little bit about what the marketing plans will be? Because my concern, which I've expressed to you before, is saying that you're going to sell the property or saying that you're motivated to sell the property and actually selling the property are two very different objectives. And so I just want to make sure that the board is comfortable that the property will be sold and that we won't be back here in 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months having this exact same conversation.
There is not a plan in place yet. As I've explained to the majority of the people that I've talked to about this, I don't have any experience in it, and obviously they don't have any experience in it. So that's what we are working on right now, because we're not sure to how you would market a project of this magnitude. We believe that it should be a company large enough to market outside of Carson City, obviously, and something to market internationally and, to get the highest price, obviously, that we can get for the building. We're open to suggestions on how to do that, but that's something that we're working on right now.
Anybody else? Excuse me, Kim. I just want to thank you for coming here today and talking to us about the Ormsby House. I think, it has been since 1999. And as you and I discussed, there's a lot of, sometimes the Ormsby House is they frequently say, well, what's going to get finished first, the Ormsby House or the freeway, and things of that thing going around town. And I think it's extremely valuable that you come and say, you know what, these things have happened. We want to move forward. We want to do the best. And I'm certainly sensitive to, the fact that the owners of this property are, like I am, getting older. I'm not that old just yet, but getting older. And I think it's also important that we have, the commitment to do the outside. I'm not certain that 18 months does it, but I think that your offer of 90 days and perhaps a 12-month period, with the trigger in it, that, that we do the external, all the external site, all the civil external site improvements that are on the plans, I think goes a long ways. And, it occurs to me that from a standpoint of the city, you and I think would both like to see that the Ormsby House done for the benefit of the city. And I know that that's what Don and Al have wanted to do for all these years. For whatever reason, it hasn't materialized. But that doesn't take away what the original goal is, and what I think your stated goal is we want to do what's right for the city and for the community. And I think it's awfully important and awfully good of you to come and to explain kind of a little bit of the history and where you want to go. And so, personally, I'm inclined to say, we should go down the road of, say, maybe giving 90 days to do the external civil site improvements, and subject to a 12-month extension. And if the site improvements aren't done, then we'll, it's over. But I think that it behooves us in this time where your relatives are and you are, and the Ormsby House is, to see if we can work together as a community, as a city and a developer and a long time, family in this community. For Don and Al have been here for ages, and it's not lost, and I think on a lot of us, that Don and Al created Cubics Corporation years ago, young people, young electrical engineers. And that was a big start of what happened out that industrial air park. So, there's a long history of the Lairs and the Fagans in Carson City here. And I think it's great that, we're now in a public forum saying, we're going to work together to try and get this issue solved once and for all. And I think that, we can do that. I think what you've offered here and what I've just kind of discussed is a way to move forward. Because it doesn't do any of us any good. I mean, I could say here and say, okay, you know what, it's been a bad, I think, it's an eyesore, yada, yada. I could do that. But at the end of the day, that doesn't get us anywhere. I mean, it gets us with the status quo in essence. And I think, to those who would say, just to deny a permit, and let it sit and go, take whatever lumps you can. I mean, you're going to be able to sell it maybe for less, maybe. But I think that, given the history of of this, that, I think we can work together to get this done. And at some point in time, that will be a wonderful anchor for the southern part of Carson Street. Because I think, one of the things that came to my mind when I was up taking the tour the other day, standing on the top floor looking north along Carson Street, you can just imagine, the beauty of what why somebody would want to stay in that facility, and what downtown Carson City can really look like from that viewpoint. And so, I've said a whole lot of things here, but I think that's where I'm coming from, and you're welcome to add or detract from any of what I just said. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. If I can just refer back to Brad's question real quick. I don't want anybody to think there's any lack of motivation on anyone's part to get someone interested in marketing the Ormsby House. I have spoken to several realtors. It's just that I haven't found anybody yet that has actually marketed a half-finished hotel or 75% finished or whatever. I mean, I'm not sure. Tom would know exactly what the percentage is of what it is as far as being finished. But I just haven't spoken to anybody that's done that yet that said, hey, here's a plan and how we can move forward. So I am diligently working with my family and with Donald to get somebody involved in it. We just decided 4 weeks ago to sell the Ormsby House, so it's not like we spent a lot of time doing this yet. But we are motivated to do this as quickly as possible.
Well, and then I'd like to comment, too, for the public. One of the reasons I'm willing to consider this is I want to say how nice it's been that you've continued the taxes, even though you have no revenue being generated. So you have contributed in the tax base and continued and not let the property go into abatements and everything else. So you've been a good partner trying to bring this Ormsby House to fruition. So maybe we'll get lucky and get a great new buyer in Carson City.
You know, over the last few years, I've had a lot of people talk to me about the Ormsby House, and I've been very vocal that I'm not interested in dictating private property rights, that as long as you pay your taxes and maintain the property, that I'm never going to step up and tell you what to do. Having said that, we're now at the end of what was our administrative ability to provide extensions to the building permit, which is why this is now in front of the board. So if the objective is to move forward, market the property, get it sold, get new investors in here that can complete the property, then I just want to make sure that we are agreeable on some performance measures to make sure that we're trying to get to that objective. My suggestions would be that if the exterior civil improvements aren't completed within the 90 days, that we have language that would allow us to pull the building permit. I would also suggest having a review after 6 months so that we have a good understanding of where the marketing has gone and what type of interest we're seeing. Sean, I'd also like to know what are our options for extensions? Is the period of extension up to us up to a maximum of 18 months, or does it have to be 18 months?
To answer that question direct, the municipal code says a third and subsequent extensions request may only be approved by the Board of Supervisors. They identify the extensions as 18 months in that paragraph. So 18 months is the max that I interpret your extension ability to be.
Is it 18 months or is it up to 18 months?
It says within 18 months. It does not specify anytime sooner or greater.
So if it's within 18 months?
Within 18 months.
Within 18 months, the board had discretion to set a different time limit other than 18 months.
To answer your question more boldly, is when an applicant comes into me and asks me for an extension, I just don't grant an 18-month. I ask the applicant, what is the situation to resolve the permit? Sometimes I go out and I do extend those permits out 12 or 6 months, depending upon the applicant's request. I don't automatically do 18 months. I think that gives you more insight.
So my suggestion would be a review at 6 months, and if it's if the board decides to grant an 18-month extension, that there be a review at 12 months, so that every 6 months we're getting an update. And then also there are marketing groups out there that specialize in hospitality properties and international hospitality properties, so I'll give you the contact information for those groups so you can contact them.
Yes, thank you. I'm not suggesting any changes to what's been discussed here today, and Mr. Metcalf probably knows this better than anybody, but just to go on the record that 90 days from now to finish these offsites, fall is in the air, as we all know, and so paving, we'll run out of paving temperatures here in 45 days, so a lot of this is going to have to happen within the next few weeks to probably meet that, so just wanted to go on the record. Thank you.
You better answer that, Mr. Metcalf. Is that?
And he is correct. Paving is temperature dependent, not so much on the private side as the public side. So if there were public side, it has to be 40 degrees and rising. if I'm not mistaken. But on the private side, if we could get a window in, and it's 35 degrees and rising, and we feel the asphalt's going to hold up, we could meet that window. So I think we're okay if we're looking at middle of September to middle of October to middle of November, middle of December. I don't see a problem, but then again, I can't predict the weather, especially here. But I was instructed to start on it immediately, if approved.
Jim.
Having said that, this board is recommending a 90-day timeframe, that if you don't complete this, you could be in jeopardy. So do you feel comfortable that 90 days, you can have this all done for those drawings?
If I was given owner approval today, I do feel comfortable we could do it.
And then, Kim, the question of you coming back to us in 6 months and giving us a marketing update of how you're marketing the property, do you feel disclosing all that at a public meeting, you feel comfortable with that? Or is there some limits that you'd like to place on that, saying, here, I have it listed, this is where it's at, but how much are you going to divulge at a public meeting about how you're marketing your property, so to pacify the board?
Well, without talking to Al and Don, I'm not sure what they would be comfortable with, but I don't think it's an unreasonable request. And I understand the situation that we've been in and the history that we've had, so I really don't think it's going to be a problem to give you some sort of update with what's going on and tell you who we're working with.
And would that be good enough for this board?
I don't have a problem with that, and I appreciate the willingness to do so.
Okay, before we, let's see if we can get to a motion, then we'll take public comment on the motion, see where that goes. I think from what I'm hearing, a potential motion just for discussion. Jim, did I cut you off on? I'm sorry. A potential motion would be this, and just for discussion purposes, lay it out. And that the building permit for the Ormsby House would be extended for a period of 12 months, subject to two conditions. One, the first condition would be that within 90 days of today's date, the owner would complete all external civil improvements contained in the approved plans, and that would be done no later than 90 days. And failure to do it within 90 days would cause the permit to automatically expire. And that further, there would be a review of the permit within, assuming that we pass the 90-day hurdle, there would be a review of 6 months to get an update on where they are on the marketing plans.
I can accept that.
Well, I think we should.
I'm good.
Generally speaking, is the applicant comfortable with that if we move forward with that? We don't want to vote on it and they're not comfortable with what we're doing.
I would prefer to have 18 months, more so than, with a 12-month review, more so than a 12-month extension. 6 and 12-month review.
And
Right.
if I may add to that too, I think from a marketing standpoint, that would give you better leverage to sell the property as you move forward too. Limiting yourself to a 12-month as a potential buyer coming in, I would look at that, and it may take 6 to 8 months to get the contractual agreements between buyer and sellers done. I'm not sure, but it could be a lengthy process, and limiting you to 12 months could harm the potential marketing of the property, possibly. I'm not sure.
I
Your
would agree with
perspective?
that. I would agree with that.
Would we consider looking after it upon second review, or upon the 6-month review, extending the permit at that time if needed?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I just think that,
From a marketing standpoint, I think that limits them. They're looking.
well, yeah, go ahead, Jim. I stepped on your comment there. Let's go ahead.
Limiting the building permit to 12 months, if I'm understanding everything correctly, limits your ability to market, you feel limits your ability to market the property. And so I think what you're looking for, if I'm understanding it correctly, is an 18-month extension, a review at 6 months and a review at 12 months. And if you don't meet the 90-day improvement to the property, that's all in jeopardy. Am I understanding that correctly?
If I could make a comment, if I'm the developer walking in next week and I would like to buy this project and I know I have an 18-month extension to finish this, I know I can, and I'm a contractor developer, I can finish the physical work in X amount of time. I mean, without going into double time and weekend work and things like that, I can schedule that. I can do a critical path schedule and schedule the finishes. And then I also know how long it would take me to do my due diligence and my closing, just like you mentioned, Supervisor Shirk, that takes some time also. And if we go less than the 18 months, I think I would agree with you that it's almost like people are going to look at it, well, they've only got 12 months left. I can't get it done in that time. I might as well figure hundreds of thousands of dollars and 9 months to a year more of redesign. And
Well, Jim, let me ask this question then, Tom. 18 months is a building requirement. I mean, that 18 months is around how you comply with a building permit, right? It's not how much you're around. The 18 months is not the marketing side of things. I mean, if I were an owner, I'd want to say, you know, why 18 months? Give me 2 years. I mean, because the 18 months applies to the building side of things and not to the marketing side. So help me understand what the trigger is on 18 months. From your standpoint, how did you come to 18 months?
Because that's the legal length of time that Mr. Keating says that we could have.
Well, I grant that, but if you agree with me, that's on the building, that's on the construction side of things. That's not on the marketing side. And all I want to know is, how do you get to the decision that you require 18 months to market the property? Because what we're doing is we're not going to complete the project. We're going to do the external part of it, but we're not going to complete the project. So the building permit side of it is really kind of non-essential anymore after that. And what we're talking about is leaving the building permit in place to market it so that, and there's not cutting any bones about it, so that it's easier to market that piece of property. And I think that that's what the city should be doing, trying to make it easier to market the property, given the history of what's gone on here. I don't have any problem working with that. But I want to know why I should accept 12 months or 18 months as opposed to 12 for marketing the property. And I don't have any problem with saying 12 months, you know, we'll review it at that time. If you've got a willing buyer that's coming in that needs to extend it for a purpose. But I worry about having an open-ended 18-month, a year and a half period of time where essentially there's nothing that has to be done. And so, you know, we're trying to make sure that what we do is we get things moved and organized. And so help me understand that.
Sure. And Mr. Mayor, to me, if I was on the purchasing side and I knew there was an 18-month window to finish out that permit, am I correct? Yes. Finish out the permit. So it's not I'm halfway done or a quarter way done. I have to be done in 18 months. So it's a sliding scale. The sooner the owners put this out on the market and show that they've got 18 months and the clock is ticking to finish under this permit, the value is X. The longer they go to marketing and the closer they get to that 18 months, then that value becomes X minus. Because a developer will come in and go, well, okay, it's already been 6 months or 12 months, and you've only got 6 months left on your permit extension. I can't finish it in that time, so I've got to pencil in, I've got to redesign it anyway. So that's why the 18 months right now is the most valuable to market the project and to get it marketed as quickly as possible.
So if I'm reading the code correctly, it says the third or subsequent extension requests may only be approved by the Board of Supervisors. So if they were, let's kind of play the scenario out that we put this at a 12-month mark, we could grant another extension pursuant to this code, correct? So if they brought me a bona fide expire at the 12-month mark, we could then grant an 18-month for that buyer to actually execute the building.
You are absolutely correct. The language in the code gives the Board of Supervisors the ability to have multiple extensions, not just one.
So I wanted to clear that up, to be able to say that you could still market that out, that it would be brought forward with a bona fide buyer. It doesn't mean it'll be granted. And so the discussion is, does 18 months give you a better opportunity in the marketing to get a new investor in Carson City? And I guess that's a discussion we need to have, but I do want to clarify that subsequent extensions could be granted.
And Supervisor Bagwell, I understood that also, and again, I'm playing the buyer, but I'm not from Carson City. And, whenever we go into different municipalities to build and we don't have that comfort level, there's a lot of different due diligence that needs to go on, including possibly, okay, I'm going to buy this facility, but we're at 12 months, so it definitely doesn't meet my window. And I need to have, as part of my due diligence to buy this, a guarantee that it will be extended or the price is X minus. It's a math problem at that point. So the 18-month window is going to disappear quickly. So whether it's 12 months or 18 months, it's going to end up being a math problem from day one.
And what happens, Tom, if the buyer doesn't come until month 18?
Then if I was the buyer and there are subsequent approvals possible, I would look at that avenue and then the price would be X. If during due diligence that is not the case, then the price is X minus.
You would build a contingency into the contract that
Yes,
that
sir.
I don't
approval
have
be
any problem
granted.
doing that, but okay, go ahead. I'm listening to the debate here. So.
So I have no issue if you find a buyer and you're in escrow in granting subsequent extensions. However, that is only applicable if a buyer or any investor that looks at this property and wants to move forward with it wants to complete the approved plans. If they don't, if they want to change the use or change the build-out, this permit is going away anyway.
Yes.
So I just want to be really clear about that. And I personally think that the chances are much greater that whoever buys this is going to make changes and that the permit probably will go away, or at least portions of it will go away. And as much as I would like to keep this approval, if we move forward with an approval on a very short leash with lots of review, I also understand that, because I represent people that buy properties like this, that a due diligence period is probably going to be 6 to 12 months on a typical deal like this, and possibly even longer. So my main objective is that if we move forward with an approval, that there is constant communication between us, the building department, the planning department, the city manager, and yourselves, so that we know what's going on, we know what progress is being made, and we know that there is an ongoing attempt to actually move forward with a sale. And I understand that I don't want to back you into a corner and make you feel pressured to accept offers that don't meet your parameters, but from the city's side, and I'm wearing a city hat, that we have to have some assurances that we're moving forward. Or otherwise, we might as well just let the permit expire and move on. So that's my objective. How we get there, obviously, we all need to be in agreement, and I think we can be in agreement, but that's just where I'm coming from on this.
So what you're saying then is that you're comfortable with 18 months? Or with what figures would you have in that period of time?
I'm not comfortable with 18 months, but I think it's realistic based on my knowledge of how this transaction is going to move forward and the fact that there's probably a 50-50 chance that the permit's going to go away anyway, and maybe the 18 months is needed, maybe it isn't. My objective is to make sure that there's good communication, we know what's going on, and that we have the ability, if we see for some reason that this project gets put on the back burner again, that we have the ability to step in and say, okay, we're terminating the building permit.
I think that's extremely reasonable, Supervisor Bonkowski. I don't have any problems with giving reports and communicating on an ongoing basis with the board and city officials at all.
If that's the case, then I would agree to the 18 months based on that.
Tell me how you try it. How would you structure that then, Brad?
Again, I think that there has to be language in this that, which you included in your proposed motion, that if the exterior improvements per the civil plans, the approved civil plans are not completed within 90 days, that the permit automatically terminates. I think that there needs to be some provision at the 6-month mark and the 12-month mark that if nothing has happened, if it is not being actively marketed, that we have to have some mechanism in place that allows us to terminate the building permit at that time.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, and maybe you can help that, because that's, I mean, I don't have any difficulty with that either, but that's that, what is that? What's that trigger? I mean, I got the trigger at the 90 days, it's gone. I mean, and I don't mind having, even for me, 6 months, just to come in and review or to talk to our staff so we get a staff report about, is this being actively marketed? And I don't mind even at 12 months saying, okay, now we really want to know, is this being marketed or not? And I guess in one sense, we could quibble about what the word marketing means, but if it's being actively marketed still, or we have something in escrow, it wouldn't bother me to say it's extended for another 6 months after that. But I don't know if that's clear enough. I don't know what you think, Lori.
Mayor, I understand what you're saying. You've got a trigger point at 90 days. The trigger point at 6 months and 12 months is a little gray. But I don't know if, I can't talk for the owner. Maybe Kim has some ideas.
I'm unsure exactly what information it is that you would want at that time. And like I said, without speaking to Al and Don direct, I can't say specifically what information they would be willing to divulge. But I think that it would be very apparent that we're marketing. Obviously, we would be working with a professional marketing company. There would be signs up. You're going to see marketing on the internet. I don't really foresee that as being an issue. It's not like this is a big secret or anything. We've announced publicly that we're selling it, and I'm going to work diligently to make sure that that happens. And I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to any questions being asked of me, in 6 months and 12 months, and I'll give you as much information as, everybody's comfortable with. If you're specifically asking me about monetary offers, I'm uncomfortable answering that question because I don't know what that number is. And I don't think it's fair today to say that we know what that number is because there hasn't really been any large attempt to market this property.
I think that I would be satisfied if the property is listed with a hospitality group, so that's all they do, and is being marketed by that group nationally and internationally at the 6-month point and the 12-month points, that would satisfy me, with the understanding that if the property's not in escrow at the end of the 18-month period, there's going to be no extension.
I'm very comfortable with that, Supervisor Bonkowski.
I agree with everything that's being said, but if they decide to market with some other marketing firm, I think that's their choice as well. As long as you're marketing with whoever you want to market with, I don't care. As long as it's being marketed, we can't limit you to say you must use this type of branding to market your property. But as long as you're going down the pathway of marketing the property, It can't be self-marketing, though.
Correct.
That I wouldn't go for. But your firm and who you choose to use is your choice.
No, we clearly don't have any experience in doing this, so we would be going with a professional firm.
Okay, well, let's take some public comment while we're here. Public comment. Mr. Lapierre.
Mayor, Board, thank you, appreciate it. Let me offer you an alternative outlook and view on this situation. So it is important to look forward and to not look back at the past, but just a quick history of the building permits on this. There have been 3 main building permits. There was 3 renewals, this is the best that I can understand, from the first 2. And then we're on our second renewal, which would be when we're talking about our 3rd renewal for the last 3rd building permit that was given. 15 years, 15 years. And we're talking about giving building permits to allow someone to market their property. We give building permits to let people build, I would hope. That's the hope. So whether there's an extension of the building permit or not, I have an opinion one way or another, but what's more important is that the outside of the property is ready to go by Nevada Day. Not 90 days, by Nevada Day. So the paving's already going to be an issue with the weather and things like that. If you just said that there's a construction fence to be down and the weeds to be pulled, and that's it, before Nevada Day, today's the 15th, within 30 days, that should be very doable. If there's no construction that's going on, and from what I gather, and I could be wrong, but from what I gather, the building permit they want just for the purpose of making it more attractive to sell and worth more money. So we've been through 15 years of this, and we're giving them an opportunity to make more money after the fact, and there's no talk of doing actual work. And we're going to open up our new beautiful downtown with the Ormsby House looking like it does. I'm not okay with that. It needs to be cleaned up. It needs to be fixed before Nevada Day. And I urge you to make that happen. If you want to put the other stuff in there, heck, you want to give them 18 months, well, that's fine. But this is a big moment for Carson. It's a big moment for the people sitting up on that board, for that to look right. And to have that, it be in the condition that it's in, is not good. Couple other things. You know, I think there has to be some real tie-ins to, you know, what you guys are talking about. You know, we've had 15 years of we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this, and for whatever reasons those don't happen, and that's fine. Things happen, but there has to be some teeth to that. But the building permit that we're talking about is not to go build anything. It's to allow them to market a property. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. No one wants to build anything. There's no reason for a construction fence at all. All they want to do is make more money on it and make it more attractive to sell, and that's their right to do. So good for them for being able to do that.
Garrett, let me ask you a question there. Suppose you do nothing. What's the incentive for the owners of that property to do anything? Suppose you just let the building permit go away, and they're going to market it, even assume it's less money, or what's the incentive for anybody to fix that building?
So,
I mean, that's what you're asking in a sense is, hey, either get it fixed by Nevada Day or the external, or you know, forget the building permit. Help me understand what benefit the city gets, or the community, not just the city, but all of us as a community, if that building stays the way it is in perpetuity.
well, Brad hit the nail on the head. No one's buying this property based on what the building permit is. It's going to take 6 to 12 months just for due diligence. The building permit really has nothing to do with it other than maybe it makes it worth a little more money. Because even if they have a plan for whatever they're going to do, hotel, casino, someone's going to have to come in. Maybe they want to do something completely different. They're going to have to make changes to that. So the value of the building permit, really is zero, nada. So, you know, and that's why I said I don't care about the building permit one way or another. But the outside of the building, if you're going to give them another extension after all the ones we just talked about, has to be cleaned up by Nevada Day.
Okay,
I think that would be.
And I know Karen's got a question. I just want to follow up that line of reasoning once. I mean, you say, I want to know the answer to this. You say the building permit doesn't matter. Okay. How do I get anything done if you say no to the building extension? How do you then go to them and say, get it cleaned up by Nevada Day? How do you do that? What do you say?
I would allow them to do that, however that took. You know, I don't know the intricacies of that. But let's do a hypothetical timeline. So you give them an 18-month window right now. The property's not on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Property's not on the market. You give them 6 to 12 months to find a buyer, get through due diligence, to close escrow. We're a year from now. We're a year into 18 months, and you expect someone to finish that building in 6 months? They're going to come to you for another building permit no matter what.
That's correct. That's fine. That's fine. That's correct. I think you're right, that the new buyer is going to come, which was the whole point. But if it expires, the new builders, the new ones will have to come to new codes, and many of the items that have been done in the building will have to be fixed or changed, and that costs a lot more money. So the objective is to be able to utilize.
And that's why giving these extensions has put us in this position, so.
I got you, Garrett, and I know Karen's got a question. Let me just, so then, if I distill it down, Garrett, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. Well, maybe I am, but if you give them, call it Nevada Day. I mean, they may, I don't know if they can get it done by Nevada Day or not, but call it Nevada Day. You give it Nevada Day, you don't get it done, permit's gone. You don't care how long the permit's extended for. That's what your main issue is.
My main issue is to have this cleaned up by Nevada Day. That's my main issue. The building will sell, all that stuff will take care of itself, the building permit, all that, whether it's these guys or the next guys or whatever. But to hit your point again, that the reason we're in this and now we need to hold on to it and extend it to give them the building codes that were there 15 years ago is because it's been extended and extended and extended.
Okay, that's helpful. Go ahead. Sorry.
Tom, in today's construction market, which is really busy, I get it, and I understand Garrett's point about wanting it cleaned up by Nevada Day. I have to agree with that. But weeds, fence, that's possible. I'm not sure about the paving, given weather and availability of contractors to do the paving. What are we looking at?
That is a big issue, Supervisor Abowd. Could it be done by Nevada Day? Sure. But I literally just heard about this a couple days ago, and I was out of state. So and I'll be out of state again this afternoon. And I told Mr. Lear that I'd be more than happy if we get the extension with parameters to start working with them tomorrow. So I've literally got to pull out my estimate for the site work, which I've got done, and a schedule, but I literally haven't even looked at it in a while. So I would need to sit down with him Friday, get his direction, get the subs. Hopefully, there's a couple down the street we could maybe use that are finishing up their portion at 308 Curry, and see if I could get them to move their equipment south. So it's that kind of work I've got to get started. Could we do it by Nevada Day? Sure. But would I want the owner to agree to that? In today's market, no. I couldn't do that. And we could go ad nauseum about the market right now, and it's, you guys, or most everyone knows it's nuts.
But cleanup could be done. That part could get done.
It would be in process. I mean, it could be cleaned up. I would assume the fencing has to be up for safety, for insurance reasons, for things like that. Could it be cleaned up by Nevada Day and almost done? Sure. All of this stuff could happen. But I've literally got to start diving into it tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, I hope you've heard it can be done by Nevada Day. I hope you take that to heart.
Thanks, Garrett. Any other public comment? Anybody want to weigh in? Okay, well, let's try this then. Let's see if this works. And then we can debate it, put this motion, if somebody wants a second, we'll put them out for discussion. That the building permit would be extended for 18 months with the following conditions. One, that it's extended based upon the representations of the applicant's representative here today and the comments of Mr. Metcalf. Two, that within 90 days, all external civil improvements contained in the approved plans will be done, failing which the building permit will expire automatically without further administrative action. That there will be an update by the owner or the owner's representative within every 6 months with respect to what's happening with that building, and that will be done here in public. And you don't have to do anything big about that. It's just, hey, we're marketing it and what we're doing. No, you don't have to talk about dollars or anything like that. But that failure to come within every 6 months means that the permit dies. If we don't meet those benchmarks, permit dies without further administrative action. I'll put that on the table, see where that goes.
Second.
I'll second.
Third.
All right. Now, on the discussion part, you heard what Mr. Lapierre said. We all know what's going on out here in terms of the market. And I guess, I will say, when I was first mayor, there wasn't anything going on. Now it is, now the fire is building, and it's nice to see economic activity happening again. And I think that, from that standpoint, I make that because the Ormsby House can be a big player in how the economic activity goes for downtown. And so, that's the motion to go seconds. On the motion, any further discussion? Anybody? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right, we'll be in recess for 10 minutes. meeting of the Board of Supervisors back to order. We are now on item number 15, a payment of approval of bills. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll just take your time. We're moving pretty good today, so. All right. Everybody had a chance to look at the bills? All right. Public comment? Seeing none. All in favor? Make a motion's fine, then we'll go all in favor. Or not in favor. We'll do it.
I move to ratify the approval of bills and other requests for payments by the city manager for the period of August 6, 2016 through September 2nd, 2016.
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. Now let's take up the appointment of a person to the Open Space Advisory Board that expires, the term expires January 2017. We have some awfully great applicants to fill the place of a gentleman who had to leave. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these in the order that they're listed on the staff report, and that would be Deborah Hayward first, Jeremy Hall second, Jason Kushnicki third, Gregory Swift, and then Joanne Michael in that order. Is everybody in here listening to what we do? Here's how some of you may have been through the process before. If you haven't, let me just say what we try and do very hard is to ask the same questions of each of the individuals so that nobody gets a leg up anywhere. So that's why we ask people to stay outside the room while we're interviewing one. But I want to assure you that I've never seen us go astray of that. We ask the same questions or nearly the same questions of every applicant, so nobody gets a different treatment. And then when we make a motion or make a decision, which is always very difficult, everybody can be in the room to hear those decisions. And second and third, I'd like to say on behalf of the board, thank you all for applying. This board values its boards and commissions that works for our city. We rely on them for information. We rely on them to do their jobs. It's a big part of why our city government works. And so on behalf of all of us, we want to thank you. And if you don't get accepted this time, keep your oar on the water, because other times come up, and reading the qualifications of all of you, you're all extremely qualified individuals. So just let that know. These are difficult decisions by all of us here. So, okay. All right. Anybody have any questions on the process? Not? Well, okay. All right. Morning, Deborah. How are you? Back again. That's good. That's all right.
How's everyone been?
Doing all right. How are you?
Is that all?
There you go. Here.
There you go. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Okay. I know you've been here before, but why don't you just start off by, telling us again a little bit about yourself and why you want to do it, and then I have an additional question. So have at it.
Alrighty.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Deborah Hayward. I'm an owner here in Carson City. I've been here since 2001. I purchased about 8 years ago, right off of Long Street. I'm a full-time employee at the Max Casino. I'm in the accounting department. I audit food and beverage. I'm very active, and I try to be very active in the community. I'm a scuba diver instructor. I do a lot of diving up in Lake Tahoe and try to hit some other areas as well. And I'm trying to get on the board to do my
Civic
best
duty. Good.
for the city.
All right. I have a question for you, then we'll turn it over to the rest of the board here. The question is this. Please give me your thoughts on how open space should be evaluated as open space. For example, suppose you have two parcels of land, both undeveloped. How would you go about prioritizing them for potential acquisition or other disposition, such as conservation easements and the like?
An environmental study would have to be done on it first to see which would be best to be revitalized, to be properly used for the intent that it is used for, or will be used for. Also, the possibility of developing it would have to be another consideration. Would it be best for the public? Would it be best for the environment? What would be the consideration of the natural habitat that lives in that area? Is any of the natural, any of the animals that live in that area, are they on the endangered list? There's a whole lot of possibilities. Look at those two parcels of land, and they have to be evaluated individually and then together as a group.
Okay. Who wants to go next? All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The stated purpose in the open space plan is, as Carson City continues to grow, open spaces should be provided and woven into the fabric of the city. These open spaces may define developed areas within the community, and certain areas may define the boundary of the city, and they're intended to obtain a balance and a harmony between physical development and open space for the benefit of Carson City citizens. So, what does this stated purpose of open space mean to you in terms of future development?
I'll have to start off with that question about Carson City in general. We are limited on the amount of open space that we have due to how the valley is constructed. I think my priority would be to keep the land as attractive as possible. One of the reasons why I moved here is because I like the look of the city. I like the way it was laid out. It is simplified. If you look around, and I have noticed where my home is situated, I have seen growth. I've walked up to Sea Hill and looked at the city and looked at different areas that have grown. We are limited. So we have to be very careful about how we do our future planning and what we do with what we have left of our open space. It's a very touchy area, very touchy. I hope that answers your question.
Good morning, Deb. Today is your lucky day. My question only requires a one-word answer. Have you read the Open Space Master Plan?
I did my homework, yes, last night.
Okay. With 11 or so miles of current open space, do you see the necessity for Carson City to purchase any more open space?
While we have the chance, I would say yes. Any open space that is available, we need to get out there and we need to review it. We need to see how we can bring it into our city, and we need to see how we can utilize that land to the best of our advantage.
Good morning. Mine's more of a general question. Do you have a feel or an idea of the needs the citizens would like to see or have for open space in the community, or Parks and Recs as well? Do you have any idea of what the needs are or the expectations are of the citizens of the community?
Actually, yes, I do. I keep in touch a lot with usually the news media, Carson Now especially. And I see Muscle Power is out there, and they have a very good footing of what's going on. And I see more and more people being involved with the open space that we have available, the trails that are being built out and how it's being utilized. I myself take my dogs out, and their little chihuahuas, out to the Carson River. And that area that's down 5th Street, I believe it is, it runs into another one. That area has been built out so beautifully. It's a nice, easy walk, but if you're more active, you can take your bike out there, you take your horse. It's a multi-purpose area. I see a lot more trails going up in the mountains area. I wholly approve of what's happening out there, because people are getting younger. They're not getting older. They want to get out there. They want to see nature. They want to push themselves. I'm a good example of that. I didn't become a scuba diving instructor until I was like 45 years old. And I loved it. Now I'm getting into the footpaths area. It's making me feel younger.
Any other questions? Deborah, anything you want to add?
Something I shouldn't have added the last time.
Sure.
I should have added last time. If I am elected to this board, you'll find out that I'm a very active player. I take a lot of things into consideration. I'm very open-minded, but very outspoken. I'm not afraid to go out there and do my best. And I'm not afraid to do additional work on the side to make sure that it's done correctly and to bring it towards any board. But I also must mention, too, that I do associate with Ann Bollinger. She is she's an open space administrator. I do go diving with her, and I attend some diving functions through High Desert Divers. So I don't know if that's for me or against me, but I just wanted to bring that forward.
It's probably a plus, so don't worry about it. But not only are you, you mentioned that you're outspoken, but you're very well spoken as well. So anything else? Thank you, Deborah, and thanks. You know, you're welcome to sit and listen here. All right, we'll see where it goes.
Or
Okay.
expiring a chance.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Oh.
Yes, that way. And if they don't.
The city manager just had a conversation with me up here, because I'm running the meeting, who's reminding us that Carson City Municipal Code 13.06.020 allows the board in these in this particular case, allows the board to appoint alternates to the board, and these alternates could be automatically appointed for vacancies, and there are 3 upcoming vacancies in January of 2017. So just so everybody knows what's going on here, all right? All right. All right, Mr. Hall, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good.
Very good. Why don't you take a little bit of time and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to do it, and then we'll have some questions. So.
Sure. I moved here with my wife in 2007. We quickly grew to love this place and discovered the multiple trails around here. I was hired originally at Noman Inc., Eric Ingbar, who you may know his name. He does a lot of stuff in the community. He's one of my mentors. I have a lot of respect for him. I was hired as an archaeologist, a cultural resource specialist, and in grad school I also took coursework and certifications in geographic information systems, which I now specialize in my current position. So I've had mentorship with several of the, in my mind, high-ranking citizens of Carson City, Eric Ingbar and Mike Drews, who's part of the Historic Commission. And recently, within the last 2 years, I got another position at State Line, working for NCE Nichols Consulting Engineers, and I am their GIS manager now. I also participate in all the cultural resource components of larger environmental projects that occur at the firm. We have offices in both Nevada and California, so I'm familiar with a lot of the regulatory compliance that occurs with some of these projects, specifically with Section 106 compliance, with NEPA, and in California, that would be CEQA. So that's kind of my technical and professional background, and I think that my skill set is uniquely suited to be an asset to the Open Space Advisory Committee because I have some technical skills that could help with GIS, but I also have a regulatory background that I think would be beneficial to land ownership issues and compliance issues that come up. So that's my professional background. Personally, as I mentioned at the start, my wife and I, we've now had 2 kids in Carson City. We've really grown to love this place. It reminds me of where I grew up in western Montana. I grew up in the outdoors, hunting and fishing. I think that open space is crucial for us to keep our sanity. We're all really busy. I'm extremely busy. My wife is extremely busy. And we don't watch a lot of TV. We spend a lot of time hiking and biking in the community. And what I hope to achieve if I were to be appointed to this position is to help pass that legacy to my kids, because we're here to stay.
Well said. The question I have, Jeremy, is please give me your thoughts on how open space should be evaluated as such, and by that, the open space code defines open space as just undeveloped property. For example, suppose you have 2 parcels of land, both undeveloped, both qualify as undeveloped property under the code. How would you go about prioritizing them for potential acquisition or not, or other disposition?
Well, this type of volunteer work is new to me, so I've recently familiarized myself with the open space plan. And so I know there's the checklist that is within the appendices, and I know that there's a priority list of criteria that you evaluate. One of them is the urgency in which the land, I guess the opportunities in which the land could be acquired, land ownership issues, issues with financial issues. Can open space purchase the land, and which one of these parcels would be would take precedence over the other? I think to me, one of the most important things would be linkage with the rest of the system throughout Carson City, especially with the trails and public access. I think that would take priority if one of the parcels had a better access than the other, if we were to choose between one or the other. But generally speaking, I think that the open space plan, even though it's highly relevant, it was created in what, 2000. I still think that there's a lot of tools that can be used to evaluate which one of those properties, or if both, could be acquired, or potential conservation easement, something of that sort.
Go next. Go.
Good morning, Jeremy. You get the softball. You get a pass here because my question was, have you read the open space master plan? And you already answered it affirmatively.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning. With 11 or so square miles of current open space, do you see any necessity for the city to purchase more?
I have been informed with my conversations with folks involved in Carson City Open Space, Juan Guzman and Bollinger, that the current mindset is more of management rather than acquisition. However, I think that it would behoove us in this group to jump on opportunities if the financial situation makes sense. I've been appraised recently of a new opportunity, the Fagan property, which is on the north side of Highway 50, to help link Clear Creek to the Lincoln Highway, and then farther down to the Kings Trail. And I know that's still in process, and I'm rooting that one on, and I think Ann Bollinger has done a really good job of jumping on that opportunity.
Good morning. Do you have an idea of the needs or expectations of the citizens of the community for open space usage?
I'm sorry, Jim, could you please rephrase that question?
Sure. Do you have an idea or an expectation of what the community needs for open space and their access to it and how they utilize it? Or do you have an idea of what the citizens are looking for? Not just what may come up, but do you have an idea of what citizens are looking for?
Yeah, I get it now. So according to the questionnaire that was presented in the open space plan, there was a sample of folks that was surveyed, and I know that people appear to be opposed to growth along the hillsides. They want to preserve our view shed. Biking and walking trails are extremely important. The ability to take out their dogs into open space. I think there's an expectation of folks in Carson City to have a linked system so that it's not just broken with pieces of trail here and open spaces there. Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy, for applying. In the purpose of the open space is stated, as Carson City grows or continues to grow, open spaces should be provided and woven into the fabric of the city. These open spaces may define developed areas within the community, and in certain areas may define the boundary of the city. They are intended to obtain a balance and a harmony between physical development and open space for the benefit of Carson City citizens. So my question to you is, what does this stated purpose of open space mean to you in terms of future development?
I think that it's really important for us to strive when new development comes in to negotiate with developers and landowners and folks selling their properties to begin the process of discussion to leave portions of those properties open, or at least a corridor through those properties open for open space, whether that's in concert with parks or if it's a trail system through, because I guess I keep coming back to it. Apparently it's something that's really important to me, is the linkage of paths and trails through the city to really, I think it speaks to the direction and the vision of the city, and I'm extremely excited for the downtown corridor to be finished because of its walking environment that it's going to, that it's going to produce. So with a network of trails in the city, it's just going to bring in more people. I'll restate it again. I think it speaks to people's preservation of their sanity after work and in their free time to have the ability to move about the city in a completed network.
Anything you want to add?
I'm the right guy for the job.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. You're welcome to hang out and see how the rest goes here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right.
Thank you.
Morning, Jason.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
Doing great, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Good. Why don't you take a few minutes, tell us about you, what you do, and why you want to serve, and then we'll get some questions and take an open chance to just why you want to be on the Open Space Committee and what do you have to offer and things of that nature, and we've all read the application, and so give us a
Okay.
little feel. Thanks.
Yeah, a little history about myself. I moved to Carson City in 2001. I've lived in the area. I'm originally from Ohio. I moved to the area. I've now lived here longer in this area than I lived in Ohio. And I moved to South Lake Tahoe first, went to school at the University of Nevada, Reno, obtained my master's degree in hydrology there, and got a job here in Carson City with the Division of Environmental Protection. I've been in Carson City since 2001, so it's just about 15 years now. And I have a family of 3 that, I'm hoping will grow up and will love Carson City as much as me. And I guess the reason that I'm interested in serving on the Open Space Advisory Committee is because I think that Carson City has a lot of potential, and we're doing a lot of really good things here in this town. We have a lot of momentum, but I think we also have a lot more potential to live up to. And, I see Carson City's future and the prosperity directly related to its appeal. And open space is really a big part of that appeal. I come from a small town, and that's why I choose to live in Carson City. I really like the small town feel of Carson City. I'm a very active outdoors person, so I think that open space recreational opportunities are critical for the future growth of Carson City and prosperity of Carson City. I mean, I could go into, I don't know how much time you want to take because I want to get to your questions, but just the mental and physical benefits, health benefits of open space recreational opportunities, the economic benefits. There's been studies that have showed that open space, the amount of open space, the type of open space directly relates to property values. It can raise property values, which in turn then raises the taxes that the city is able to gain on those properties. I think that it's critical for attracting young families, millennials, that are going to be coming into this area and replacing retiring seniors. There's been studies that have showed that these people are a pretty mobile group, and it needs to be a pretty nice place in order to attract them. And so these are some of the benefits of open space that I think will fuel Carson City's prosperity due to its appeal.
Thanks, Jason. Okay. The question I have is, please give us your thoughts on how open space should be evaluated as such. For example, suppose you have 2 parcels of land, both undeveloped. How would you go about prioritizing them for potential acquisition or other disposition, such as conservation easement or not acquiring or whatever? Both undeveloped.
Well, I would think that we'd have to visit the open space plan, see if there's something that's identified in there as a priority acquisition, and I believe there's criteria that are laid out in there. So we'd have to, evaluate the parcels side by side against those criteria and see how they stack up. If they were, assuming that all things were equal, I guess we'd have to look at the potential opportunities that are there. I think, aesthetically, open spaces are valuable from that perspective, aesthetically, in terms of just preserving that small town community feel. But if there's an opportunity to have some recreation associated with that, then that's an added bonus. And so I would go about making the recommendation to prioritize that parcel over the other.
Good morning.
Good morning.
With 11 or so square miles of current open space, do you see the necessity for the city to purchase any more open space? And if so, why? Or if not, why not?
I would say that there's always an opportunity. I mean, I would not close the door on it. I think we've done a fantastic job. The the open space program and Parks and Recreation program are doing a fantastic job. But as I started out, I think there's always room for improvement, and we should be looking at that. We shouldn't be closing the door. We should be looking to expand open space opportunities. Now, my understanding is that the current direction of the open space program is to, I'm not entirely sure that the acquisition is the direction moving forward. I believe it's more of a maintenance mode. However, there are grants out there. There are opportunities. There is the quality of life initiative that could be used to potentially purchase properties or just preserve lands. I think, the concept of walkable communities, and if there is a land that can be developed, if we can incorporate some walkable communities, if we can pursue some grant funding or use some of the city funding to do that, then, like I referred to earlier, that's just gonna benefit the economy overall. It's gonna attract visitors. It's gonna attract people are gonna want to live here. If people want to live here, then that's gonna raise the economy all around. So.
Good afternoon. Would you happen to have an idea of the needs or the expectations of the average citizen in the community for open space and how they might utilize it?
Well, I think, I would say my perception is that the average person, works 8 to 5. They probably have kids that they have to go pick up, or they may. And so there's really little time in the day. So when we talk about left at the end of the day. So when we talk about open space, it's not like after work, the majority of the people are going to go hike Sea Hill or something like that. So I think it's really important to have walkable communities, have bike trails that are in the neighborhoods, that are designed into the neighborhoods, that are dispersed throughout the city, so that you don't have to drive all the way across town to get to some place, to just get out and get a little exercise, bond with your family if you take your family out, go walk your dog. That's what I think the average citizen wants, is someplace where they can do all that in a quick manner, half hour, 45 minutes. The shorter you have to drive to get to someplace, the more time you have to actually be out there recreating. So that would be my feeling on that. Thank you.
Hi, Jason.
Good morning. Or afternoon.
In the purpose for open space, it states that as Carson City continues to grow, open spaces should be provided and woven into the fabric of the city. These open spaces may define developed areas within the community, and in certain areas may define the boundary of the city. They are intended to obtain a balance and a harmony between physical development and open space for the benefit of Carson City citizens. So what does this stated purpose of open space mean to you in terms of future development?
Well, I think I've kind of answered that. I think walkable communities is the trend these days. I think there's more cities are realizing that. There's been studies. There's a lot of evidence out there that show, walkable communities are good for physically and mental health, for physical health and mental health, for the economy. So I don't see one as having to be pitted against the other. I think that you can weave them together. And I mean, you guys know who I am. I've been in the news lately, and I mean, I won't lie to you. I think the best example that Carson City has is the Kings Canyon Estates or the Long Ranch Estates. That's a perfect example of how I feel development and open space can be woven together and should be. And that's what's I've heard from multiple realtors that that's the best-selling housing area in all of Carson City. So like I said before, if people want to live there, that's going to drive the market. And I mean, it's just a great example of answering the question that Supervisor Shirk just asked, of how people can just right there within a couple minutes, they're out their front door, they're on the trail, and they're they're walking their dog or whatever, you know. And so that would be my stance on that. I mean, in certain circumstances, I think that, you know, preservation is possible because I do believe that, as I said before, part of Carson City's appeal is that small town feel. It is, you know, we have a lot of cultural and heritage resources here. I mean, Buzzy's Ranch, my in-laws own a property right up there that backs to Buzzy's Ranch there, and I see people out there all the time using that, and that's, you know, so if we have an opportunity like that and can do a conservation easement with willing sellers, then I don't see why we would limit ourselves and say, no, let's develop it. But if it's a question of finances, I've been in contact with folks who, from land trusts, Nevada Land Trust, more nationally based land trusts as well, and there are ways to do this if it's a question of finance. They have creative ways, and so, you know, I think it would be worth pursuing that option if the opportunity presents itself. So you're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, Jason.
Morning.
Have you read the Open Space Master Plan?
I have perused it, yes. I won't say I've read it word for word, but
thank you.
Jason, anything you want to add to the discussion here? That anything brought it? Any questions triggered? Anything you want to talk about to conclude or anything?
Well, I guess that would be a question of mine. Is the issue that I brought up earlier, the concept that I brought up earlier, is the direction of the open space program. Is that the direction? Is more of a maintenance mode and not an acquisition mode?
I think it's fair to say that, you know, from the Open Space Advisory Committee has told us that, you know, we have 11.5 square miles. We're having difficulty managing what we've got, and it has gone to the maintenance mode primarily. We're still looking at potential acquisitions, but not the large ones that would take the money from the maintenance. So I think, yeah, I think it's a fair statement that, you know, what Supervisor Bonkowski asked on the open space plan, they have made it to go towards more maintenance. So, yeah.
Right. So I guess my question would be then, the value of this, I guess the tasks of the Open Space Advisory Committee, how do you see that moving forward then?
Well, it's a big, you know, we can get into a long discussion about it, but I will tell you from my perspective, you know, the open space is wonderful. And I think that, you know, you've probably heard me say that there are at least two big things that have happened in this community over the history that I know about that have affected quality of life in a positive way. The first was in 1969 when we consolidated the city and the county so that we only have one jurisdiction here. We own all the land from Tahoe to the high desert. The second was in 1996 when we passed the Quality of Life Initiative. Those are extremely, those things have put us in good stead for the long term. And, you know, the Open Space Advisory Committee is probably one of the more, they're all important. And let me just say it like this, that we tend, on this board anyway, in my experience, that we tend very carefully to listen to what the boards tell us, because although we have issues, you know, we're moving around the community, so are those folks on there. And so we kind of depend on them to vet issues as they come up. And I will say that, you know, the maintenance issue, one is driven somewhat by money, but other by just, you know, if we're going to have open space, we want to have quality open space as well. And I think you and I could probably agree, you know, we have some open space where people who, for lack of a better word, you know, go dump trash. And we need, you know, it's unfortunate society is like that, but we need open space to keep, you know, an eye on what's going on and to manage it so that we can all have a good feel and all enjoy it. And so, you know, and I do believe, you know, my own position is that the Open Space Board made the right decision in recommending that we shift more towards maintenance, because 11.5 square miles is a lot of open space. And you know, I'll just say one other thing. You know, while we're talking about these things, is that, You know, I sit on the NACO board, Nevada Association of County Board, and a lot of counties have difficulty with the federal government. There's, you know, open space, who gets what control of what asset. In this community, because of our relationship with BLM and our congressional leaders and things, we have been able to acquire a whole lot of Forest Service land, BLM land, and that hasn't been, you know, that's been through the efforts of folks on that Open Space Advisory Committee that have made those moves. And so I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's kind of a discussion of where we are. So.
Well, it sounds like that the direction for the Open Space Advisory Committee is kind of up in the air at this point in terms of how to bridge that gap now, moving into a maintenance mode. You know, how much can we really handle in terms of budget and maintaining what we already have and striking a balance between what we can acquire and take on for future. So it seems like an interesting challenge that I would certainly be, it would be a pleasure to address. And I guess the last question I have is, my understanding is, does the current term for this position expire relatively soon? And would that be, is this just through the end of the year then, or would this be?
That's the way the current term, I mean, that's a correct statement. It expires in January 2017. You know, while you were out of the room, what the city manager advises is that we can appoint alternates at this time that would fill, so that you don't have to, if somebody's appointed, I think we could do this. You could appoint someone to this position and also name them as an alternate, and then they get to just fill in, continue on. So, you know, we haven't crossed that bridge yet, but I assume that when we come down to the nitty-gritty here on, we'll be making some recommendations along those lines. I mean, okay.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I have any other questions, so I really appreciate your time. Thanks for having me, and thank you for your consideration.
Got a great resume.
Have a great day.
Thanks. All right. Mr. Swift, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor.
How we doing?
Good.
How's disc golf doing today?
Well, I'm hoping to get out there this afternoon, so. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Greg Swift. Greg, thanks for applying, and also thanks for teeing up disc golf and all that stuff, you folks.
Oh, you bet. It's a privilege.
Kind of lost track of where we are on the development of that, but maybe you'll fill us in.
You bet.
So why don't you take a little bit of time and tell us about, you know, who you are. I think we all know, probably everybody knows you, but tell us a little bit why you want to do this job. So.
Well, good morning again. I know most of you, or have been in front of you. My name is Greg Swift, longtime resident of the community, and I put in for the job because I like to be involved, and I've got the time now to do it. I'm an outdoor enthusiast. I like hiking, backpacking, all sorts of sports. I was active in the community as my kids grew up in a lot of the youth sports programs. Right now, as Mayor stated, we're trying to bring forth a disc golf course to our community that can, I think, be a good alternative for the youth and the whole community to get out and get some exercise, and it won't be cost prohibitive. And anyway, I have 3 children. They're all grown now. And again, like I said, I just
Understood.
Want to make the community, you know, be a part of it, and that's why I applied.
You've been a part of the community for a long time. So the question I have, Greg, and as I mentioned before, you know, we all ask kind of the same questions, is please give me your thoughts on how open space should be evaluated as such. The code says that undeveloped property qualifies as, that's the definition of open space. So if you have 2 parcels of land, both of which are undeveloped, how would you go about prioritizing them for potential acquisition or non-acquisition or other disposition, if you had an opportunity?
Yeah, probably look at location, one. Two, how it will impact the surrounding community or area. I'm sure probably one of the major factors would be the cost, and, I'd have to know a little more information about what the property is used for now and what the plans for it in the future would be. But I think, I'd have to have a lot of information to process and figure out which of the two parcels to go for. But I think how it links, I've been involved in the trail building, Ash Canyon to Kings Canyon Trail and stuff, things there, a couple parcels that were needed to link everything together, that would factor into the decision too, is what it's being, why it wants to be acquired, to see if it helps facilitate the rest of the plan, so.
Very good. All right, Jim, you want to start this time?
Sure. Good afternoon, sorry.
Morning,
That's debatable. In your community involvement, would you have an idea of what citizens are looking for in open space, in parks, and in their expectations of what they want in the community?
Yeah, I think as open space was created was the quality of life. So for me, open space really does embody quality of life, especially now that I'm retired. I have time to enjoy it. I do a lot of hiking in the community and in the paths and such. So I think most of what I've heard and seen out there is, they just don't want to be saturated. We need a space to be able to utilize, for recreation and for just everyday stuff like walking your dog on paths or on trails. And, I think that's part of the deal too, is that people are trying to become healthier. I think our youth, while I'm not anti-technology, I think they do need a release in some open space where, we can get out and enjoy the outdoors.
Hi, Greg.
Hi.
In the stated purpose of open space, it states that as Carson City continues to grow, open spaces should be provided and woven into the fabric of the city. These open spaces may define developed areas within the community, and in certain areas may define the boundary of the city. They are intended to obtain a balance and a harmony between physical development and open space for the benefit of Carson City citizens. So, what does this stated purpose of open space mean to you in terms of future development?
I think, some development's inevitable. While I enjoy the open space myself, I do have children in the community that are, looking eventually to settle down. And I think, some development's going to happen, but I think Carson City's done a good job in implementing designated areas for parks and maybe walkways or whatever that can help facilitate both ends of it. So, I treasure the open space, but I do realize that there has to be a fine balance there between our community growing and making it feasible for our young people and everybody, the older people too. So, I think it has to be a balance.
Good morning, Greg.
Hi, Brad.
My question's the easy one. Have you read the Open Space Master Plan?
I have. I can say that I've perused it, but I have not read it verbatim, the entire thing.
Hi, Greg.
Good morning, Lori.
With 11 or so square miles of current open space, do you see the necessity for the city to purchase any more open space?
I didn't hear the first part again.
We already have 11 or so square miles of open space that we have purchased. Do you see the need for the city to buy more?
I don't see the need, but I do think it has to be like a case by case. If it makes sense and is available, then I would support it and be open to it. But, you know, I think we have a good amount, but again, it would depend on the situation, but I'd be open to acquiring more, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. And Greg, anything you want to add? Any of the questions trigger anything you want to add, say, or anything?
No, you know, I've seen some of the meetings now. I've gone to Park and Rec and Open Space, been involved with the disc golf project, and, you know, I kind of get a feel for what's going on, and I like the direction the city's going, and I just want to kind of be a part of it, so.
Thank you, Greg, and thanks for being a good citizen for us.
Okay.
Thanks. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, Joanne. Hi. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Do you want me to use this microphone or speak?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, push the red button and when you get ready. But why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, you know, who you are, where you work. We've read your application, but take some time to kind of get warmed into the questions, and then we'll all ask some questions and have discussion. But again, let me say thank you on behalf of all of us for applying, and your resume, you know, your work is impressive. So take some time. Go ahead.
My name's Joanne Michael. I am an environmental specialist with Resource Concepts here in Carson City. I've been there for 12 years. I previously came from the Midwest. I got my degree in biology and a master's degree in environmental science. And I moved here about 12 years ago and been living and working in the Carson City area in Greater Nevada ever since. I work specifically on environmental assessments and specifically impact assessments. I specialize in wetlands and botanical surveys, noxious weed surveys, and permitting under NEPA and sometimes under CEQA, depending on where the project is specifically located. I live here on the west side. I have an 8-year-old son who goes to school here, and part of the reason I am wanting to work on this committee is because we truly enjoy the open space here in Carson City. It's one of the great reasons to live here, and I would like to see that not only it is maintained, but it's properly maintained for the future and for us to continue to use in the long term.
And Bruce Scott probably talked to you too. Or you talked to him.
I talked to him.
You told him. Good.
I told him just that I was applying. Yeah,
Good.
He didn't ask me to. He didn't know I was going to. I kind of looked at I saw the announcement in the paper.
That's okay.
And started.
Just.
Yeah.
The question I have, Joanne, is this: give me your thoughts on how open space should be evaluated as such. For example, suppose you have 2 parcels of land, both undeveloped. How would you go about making a determination between them as to which parcel should be acquired or not acquired, or some other disposition?
Well, I think there would be several factors involved in that decision. Certainly, there are some issues that take higher priority, and you know, I think on the surface, a lot of people think about open space and they think about recreational use of open space and aesthetics, which are all good uses for sure, but there are also other reasons why open space can be important, such as watershed protection or water quality protection, especially here on the edge of the Sierras. And so I think when evaluating properties, you need to look at what would be the primary goals and objectives of preserving that property, and then rank them in that manner. And then, of course, I'm sure finances would would be another issue, and whether you purchase something, purchase the title or you get a conservation easement on a property, you might be able to spread your dollars a lot more one way versus the other. So the availability of, or the type of purchase would also have to factor into that. So it kind of depends, I guess, first as the committee, what is the primary objective of preserving each property? Because it's certainly more than just we want open, just plain open, we want open space. There's usually other ecological factors or that would play into it. As well as, I noticed several of the properties you're looking into now are adjacent to existing preserved or parcels that you already own or the Forest Service owns, BLM owns. And that makes a lot of sense too, rather than a postage stamp in the middle of development sometimes, if you're looking at it from an ecological standpoint.
Very good. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Joanne.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi.
Thank you for applying. In the stated purpose of open space, as Carson City continues to grow, open spaces should be provided and woven into the fabric of the city. These open spaces may define developed areas within the community, and in certain areas may define the boundary of the city. They are intended to obtain a balance and a harmony between physical development and open space for the benefit of Carson City citizens. So, what does this stated purpose of open space mean to you in terms of future development?
Well, there always has to be a balance. And I do see in Carson City there is a need right now. I mean, with the development going on and the housing market the way it is, there is a need for development. And as far as I'm kind of torn because I see both ways. I like the open space integrated into the community, but I see a lot of beneficial uses to recreation and to wildlife habitat and to overall ecological communities by keeping them adjacent to the outer edges and adjacent to the mountains and to on both sides. And so prioritizing, again, back to prioritizing where you might choose to develop versus what you might choose to preserve. I think you could do both, but maybe come up with a long-term strategy in your as part of the committee, coming up with a long-term strategy is where do you want to prioritize your preservation on the edge so that you can still allow, the city to develop or to try to integrate it and make into the actual neighborhood, which is good. My personal preference is have it more on the outer edges with smaller parcels in town for both recreation and ecological reasons. But also I think financially it'd be really hard to look at some of those highly sought after and developable spaces in town and try to compete with the private sector to purchase those areas. I'm sorry, did that answer?
Good morning, Joanne. Here, I'll make up for Karen's question. Have you read the Open Space Master Plan?
Yeah, I've looked at it. I looked at them, well, go ahead. Sorry.
Is that easy?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. With 11 or so square miles of current open space that the city owns, do you see the necessity for us to purchase any more open space?
I wouldn't rule it out. I think I have looked at all the open space, and it's very impressive that with the staff and the budget that the open space department has, that they were able to do so much. And I guess my question is, and something I'd like to work on as being part of the committee, is how are all these properties currently being managed, and do they have long-term management plans for them? Are they being looked at on an annual basis? I mean, there are a lot of them, and some obviously are, and there's definite recreational opportunities, and I know, events happening on some of them, and then other ones I don't know much about. And I think from what I understand, at this point in time, it seems that the limited staff and the limited resources on this open space department, it might warrant taking a good look at what you have first and making sure that you can manage what we have first before further acquisition. But that being said, sometimes people with really good properties are really wanting to preserve them, and opportunities arise that, I wouldn't close the book on it. I guess it does seem like there's, at least my perception at this point, is that there's a lot of work to be done on what you currently have, and a small staff. And I think that's really where I would be of benefit to this committee. I do have experience with long-term conservation plans and assessing properties and looking at the overall, how they fit into the overall picture of, each of the watershed or of this type, the ecosystem in that area, and knowing what needs to be done. A lot of the tools that are available in order to manage properties. So.
Hi.
Hi.
I would say good morning, but I may get corrected, so it's mid-afternoon, I guess is the best way of saying it. Just a general question, just how you perceive the citizens in the community, how they utilize or could utilize open space, just your perception.
A lot of what I perceive, and just from my friends, a lot of them are runners, a lot of them are mountain bikers, and a lot of them are hikers and trail riders. And that's and there's lots of opportunity here for them as it is, currently. That's one of the reasons they're here.
Thank you.
Joanne, very well articulated, and it was interesting to see the thought process working there. It was very well done. Anything you want to add to any of the questions? Want to go back and readdress, or anything you want to add?
No, well, just real shortly, I've always been taught that if you want to live in a good community, you need to be part of making it a good community. And when I started thinking about that a few months back and started thinking, what is it that I'm good at, and what am I knowledgeable at, and where can I best use my talents, when I saw this opening here, I was like, this is it. This is where I can make a difference. There's not a lot of people who need to know what noxious weeds look like, or wetlands, or how to, what a rare plant looks like. It's like, but here it would make a difference possibly.
Very
to
good.
help.
It's pretty good. All right. Thank you very much. You're welcome to listen to us as we go down the road here and decide. So the tough part comes. All right, Board. We do have some alternatives available to us today. My thought is maybe we want to appoint one and then maybe make that person an alternate as well, so that, somebody's just not sitting in for 4 months or 3 months. And then if we want to appoint additional alternates, we can do that as well. So, why don't we kind of give an idea of where
Mayor?
you want to do that?
Mayor, if I could?
Yeah, I'm
If
sorry.
you could, no, that's okay. Just the way that the agenda's worded, I don't want you guys to get into any kind of trouble. So
Right.
I think that probably the best way, or what would allow you, the agenda would allow you to do, is to rank the people that you want as alternates. And then come January, if there are any, or between now and January, if there are any resignations or any vacancies, then at that point, you can appoint from those alternates.
Yeah. Okay, well, got that.
Then the one we appoint to this position, when that comes up in January, then they're out, then they go back to, they have to reapply for that position?
And if you have them ranked as one of your alternates, then they could be appointed at that point.
So, okay, to clarify then, the one we select today will only serve until January?
Yes, because they are serving somebody else's term out.
Then those we rank, the alternatives, if that person's ranked number one, then he would go to this position?
You would appoint, at that point, you would appoint one of the alternates, you would appoint at that point.
By the ranking?
Correct.
So who's ever ranked number one will take over in 2017 for the long term, for a full term.
For a full term.
Those we select today will only serve until January.
You would only appoint one person today to serve until January, and you would rank people to serve as your alternates. And then in January, you would then have it on an agenda as an item to appoint from one of those alternates to serve that 4-year term. I think it's 4 years, right?
Okay, so the one we picked today to serve to January, can he also, or that person, can that also be ranked as an alternate?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
So about the alternates, I don't mind naming a top alternate, but without having spoken to the 2 remaining people whose terms expire in January and knowing whether they would want to reapply, I wouldn't want to rank any alternates other than potentially the person that we appoint today. We have 5 very qualified candidates, and we can only choose one person. So to the candidates who don't get chosen, we do have potentially more openings coming up in January, so I would encourage you to reapply at that time if you're not chosen today. Of the 5 candidates, to me, one stood out because he had not only read the entire master plan, but knew it inside and out and could reference sections of it in regards to the questions that were asked, and that was Jeremy. So Jeremy's going to get my vote. Both as the appointment today and as the top alternate.
I guess I see what, I tend to agree with that, although I was extremely impressed with Joanne's background, and even though she'd only perused the open space plan, I think the level of thought that she went through was impressive to me, and I think that the Open Space Advisory Board could use that level of thought and put that expertise behind it. So that's where I would be. But
Can I maybe just in a general question, my reading of this would indicate, I don't understand why we couldn't list other alternates in priority order, because it's only if a vacancy, and on our current policy, if they would reapply, the others, the alternates don't come in anyway, because they'll reapply, and we would bring that back then to the board and ask for an appointment if there was a reapplication. If there's no reapplication, we could then go to the alternate and not have to bring them back again. So
The reason that I said that was because, other than the position that we appoint today, I would prefer to hear from the candidates again in 3 months if they want to reapply.
But if that position becomes open, wouldn't that be open to the public for anyone to apply, regardless
go
of
through
how
it all
we
again?
select an alternate?
You mean,
If you have no.
Well, I
you're
think,
saying you'd prefer to just reopen it all again?
Yeah.
Instead of going through these alternates and picking them in order?
well, so we're clear. If you pick alternates today, and there's an opening, like Supervisor Bagwell said, where the applicant, the existing incumbent, didn't apply, under the appointment of an alternate, that alternate would automatically, would assume the position upon the vacancy.
Yes, and I think in the case of the position you're going to appoint today, that would be entirely appropriate. It's only a 3-month period.
Right.
The men and women came in here, they interviewed. Do you really want to bring them back in January for reappointment, or do you want to have the flexibility with them having an alternate status that you just reappoint them in January? The other 2 terms that expire, you may have a competitive situation where you may have a person who wants to be reappointed and another person or additional persons who also want to be appointed to those. I think for this, that was the intent of giving you the flexibility so that for a position you interview here in mid-September, where the term expires the last day of the year, that person could then just be appointed to fill a full 4-year term. Obviously, it's at the pleasure of the board how you want to do that.
All right. Everybody could understand that one?
Yeah.
All right, okay. All right.
Well, my vote was 3 people stood out, Jeremy, Jason, and Joanne. And Jeremy did get my number 1 vote, but I would state him as the alternate number 1 for that term that expires shortly, but love to have Jason and Joanne be alternates 2 and 3 for the other 2 positions that are going to be coming up.
So I liked Jeremy for the first, and then the first alternate. I liked Joanne for the second alternate, and I liked Jason for the third alternate. I just think we should have more alternates. They've all come to a lot of trouble and come to apply, and I think they did a fine job, and we should pick some more alternates.
Jim?
You're irrelevant, you mean?
Are we irrelevant to Jim? I don't know. We don't want to be irrelevant, Jim. But
I like all the candidates. I think all the candidates were very, very impressive, and at this juncture right now, the vote's already in, it's 3, and so I think that's the way we're headed.
All right, then we'll take a motion to appoint Jeremy Hall for the unexpired term on the Open Space Advisory Board, and also appoint Jeremy Hall as the first alternate for the vacancy in that position when it comes up.
So moved.
Are we adding the other alternates?
I think let's just do the first.
Needs to be a separate item.
Separate item. So,
Separate motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. On the motion, all in favor, signify by saying.
I second.
Second. On the motion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Okay. Now we can, if we want, we can talk about, there'd be 2 alternates then. Well, we could.
There's 2 more.
2 more.
Right, that
All
will
right.
expire in January.
All right.
Okay.
So I missed where people wanted to go on that one. I got, is that
Joanne and Jason.
Joanne and Jason? And they would be.
2 and 3. 2 and 3. Because we already did Jeremy as the first alternate.
All right. All right. So there'd be a,
Right. So.
all right, so motion's in order. Go ahead.
Okay, so I move to appoint, let me get their last names, I'm sorry. Joanne Michael as alternate number 2, and Jason Kuchenicki as alternate number 3.
Second.
All right, there's a second on the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. No, sorry. One no. And the no on that, I believe, correct if I'm wrong, is for procedural issues, not because of people. All right. We want to thank everybody tonight for coming today. These are not easy decisions, but keep Carson City moving forward. Thanks. All right. All right. We're now on to the last item on the agenda. Staff reports, board reports, anything from the board? Go.
I did want to mention that I saw that Epic Rides was up for a national award for best off-road event. I think that's pretty amazing for a first-time event.
That's pretty impressive.
Just want to remind everyone on October 1st at the United Federal Credit Union, we will have a Law Enforcement Appreciation Day starting at 11 a.m. and come out and have a hot dog and tell your law enforcement officers thank you.
Anybody else got anything?
I just wanted to mention that Shelley, who's our representative on TRPA, submitted her report update, which is quite interesting on the direction that TRPA and the subcommittee is going.
Got that right. That was an interesting report. Okay. Anything else? Forrest, city manager, anything? All right. Unless there's concluding public comment. Anybody? Anybody? I don't see any. So are we ready to adjourn then? Unless there's hearing no objection, we're adjourned.